So here's an option if anyone wants to use a photograph, just to be able to trace over that photograph in Adobe Illustrator and simplify it down to basic shapes. Here's a picture I got from the internet of Andre 3000 from the group Outcast. So again, you can use these photos, but this is just an idea of how to alter the photo, turn a photo into those basic shapes. So then you can have some original art to use for your album cover. So I'm going to open up my layers right here. You can open it up under Window Layers if you don't have that. And I'm going to turn this into a template layer. So double click the little square, check template, click OK. Now I'm going to make a new layer here. So I'm just going to start tracing over the simple shapes using my pen tool here. First I'll just start the glasses here. Okay, and now since I can't see through it, I'm going to hit Control Y. That will allow me to see it there. But hopefully if you do a good job and just focus on those main simple shapes, you can still start to get a likeness here. Okay, I do not need a stroke around those, and I need a dark. I'm going to try and just go off close of what the simple shapes are, or what the colors are in the photograph. Do this hair here, hit Control Y. Turn that to a very dark brown. Okay. Now I'm going to just focus on the shadow shapes on his face already. So I'm going to look at this shadow shape. Oops, here. Okay, I want this to be I'm just going to hit I for the eyedropper tool and suck up one of these colors over here. I can always change this later on once I get that figured out. Okay, I'll do one shape here for his upper lip. Control Y, again, allows me to see through it. But it can be a very nice way to simplify a complicated photograph down to just simple shapes. There we go, I like that color a little bit better. I might just make it a little bit darker, a little bit warmer. Yeah. So remember, you can always nudge your shapes around with the arrows. Okay, how's it coming? Okay, we're getting close to a likeness here. Why don't I put in some of this facial hair here? I think that'll help to get his likeness as well. And then I'll do the hat after this. This needs to be darker. You can play around with these colors. You don't need to follow the colors exactly. So this is what hopefully you are experimenting with different color options in any sort of thumbnail, so then you can apply these color options later on. Okay, see, so we're starting to get a likeness. I think this is starting to look like him. And if you really start to focus on those simple shapes, it should get a likeness, because the likeness you get of a person will be determined by simple shapes. Okay, his hat, I'm going to trace along the little bit of hair we see here. continue to trace it here, and I'm just going to put this shape eventually underneath that shape of the hair. Control Y, Control Y. A light color hat here, kind of a light yellowish. And again, to rearrange this shape, I want this shape here to be underneath the hair, so I can do that here in the layer. Just expand with this little button and drag this under the hair. Let's see how our likeness is looking, if there's any. Okay, that looks pretty cool. What do you guys think? I'm going to adjust the roundness of this glasses. So going back in with this direct selection tool, the letter A, I can readjust or I can move any focal points. I mean, not focal points. I can move any anchor points after they've already been created. Okay. This little bit on this shape is showing underneath the hair. There we go. Okay, so now I'm just going to look at this, try and see if there's any other shapes I want to add in here. We're getting close to that likeness. I might put let's put a few more details here in the ear. So I'm just going to copy this or trace over this darker shadow. So back in art school when you guys, or elementary school when you were probably told that you can't trace in art class. After I went to art school, I found all sorts of artists that use tracing. Okay, so we are tracing this photograph, but we're changing it in a significant way to make it a unique, fun, new image. I want to see a little definition along his jaw here. So I'm just going to put in this darker shadow shape here. There we go. And I'm going to adjust this here. I missed the back shape of that neck just a little bit. Okay. So yeah, it'll end up looking something like this. I could then throw in, make a new layer, lock that one. Since these are all kind of coolish colors, what if we, oh, well, that actually looks kind of interesting. What if we put a big, bright red behind it? Okay, I'm not sure that's working, but we can play around with this and see what may work better. A darker color, probably a medium would be better. Yeah, that kind of looks good. Okay, so you would have to play around with this, but now that you had this created here, I would group all these shapes together. So you select them all, right click, group, and now these can be manipulated all on their own. Remember, if you resize, hold shift, so it constrains those proportions. The white might work better than any color back there. It may kind of look cool to just have part of it popping out like that. So you could use something like this for your album cover. You could trace over the likeness of a person. You can ungroup if you need to go in and edit. I'm going to try and adjust these shapes just a little bit. Okay, so you don't have to trace over a person necessarily. You could trace over you know, anything, any sort of shapes, any photograph you think that could make for an interesting composition, but it can be a nice way to simplify an image like this down to just those basic simple graphic shapes. And that's a good way to change a photograph to make it your own and make it into your own piece of art there. Okay, so just an idea of something to use for this project.